Hello and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Lauren. We are talking eyeshadow palettes today. We normally talk about eyeshadow palettes. It's a common reoccurrence on this channel, but today what I wanted to talk about is my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes for winter, right now in this moment. I feel like my mind changes so frequently that next week it could be a different 10. But for right now, the palettes that I have been using a lot that really just fit this kind of wintry mood that we're in, these are them. So I wanted to talk about them, show them off, and yeah, just talk eyeshadow. I believe the majority of these are still available, but I probably pulled a few that are no longer available from the brand at least. Now, chances are you can probably find them on Mercari or Poshmark or Depop, because that's the world we live in now, right? Like, it's always out there. But either way, these are the palettes that I'm using in my collection, and it gives me a chance to just talk about them. So let's talk. Let's just get into it. It's kind of an unusual bunch right now because when I think winter, I think a couple different things. Yes, I think kind of the icy bluey landscapes, lots of blues, lots of iciness, silvers. But I also kind of think of pastels too sometimes, like not your like typical pastels. I'm not a pastel fan, but something a little more saturated, but leaning more on the pastel side. Maybe that's just me, but like that's kind of the winter vibes that I get. Like pastel-y or bluey or silvery, you know, that word, silver. But I'm just gonna run through the ones that I've been using a lot lately that just remind me of the season, and yeah, you can let me know your opinions on them. But let's start with the first one. We've got Glamlight, the Ghost Face Lives palette. Look at this. It's awesome. It really is awesome. I was like, is that scratched or is it supposed to be like that? I think it's supposed to be like that. They did a crazy great job with the packaging, but I just feel like the inside was also really great as well. I reviewed this palette on camera. If you're interested, you can search for it. Most of these have probably been reviewed on my channel, but I just thought all the colors performed really, really well. I liked that it was such a cool tone palette. You don't see a lot of cool tone palettes, but this, it's got grays, it's got darks, it's got like this really pretty purple that I really like. It's just great when I'm feeling like in a dark, wintry kind of mood. When I want something just gray and black, this is what I go to. I love this palette. It's a great palette. And I think I mentioned, but these are in no particular order. So it's not like best winter palette to least best winter palette. It's just random. Next we have, this is another new one from this year. This is from Beauty Bay. This is the Metamorphic palette. And I'm gonna try not to blind you, but look, I don't love the packaging because it's got these two mirrors on it. So it's a little bit annoying to show off. And you know, I think that may be the reason why a lot of people did not review this palette, but I did, and I really liked it. Now, I don't go for blues a lot, I will be completely honest, but these blues are very cool toned. They're icy. Some of them have like a hint of teal, a hint of purple in them. They're not just your straight up blue. There's quite a bit of variation. This is actually the palette that I have on my eyes today, and it was just a lot of fun playing with it. So definitely, if you haven't checked out Beauty Bay and you like blues, this is a great palette to check out if it's still available. I'm not sure about this one actually, but it's great pricing and it's great quality eyeshadow. It's fantastic. So this palette is kind of what I mean when I kind of think of pastels during winter. I don't know why, but this is the Lands of Enchantment palette from Ensley Rain Cosmetics. Another one I just did a review on. We've been reviewing a lot of palettes lately, but this is what the inside looks like. It's a big palette, but what I like about this palette is that it's got a good mix of kind of your darker, stormier colors, as well as some lighter pastels that you can mix in as well. Now, when I did the review, I did mention that probably the top two rows of pastels, I won't be touching very much. They're far too light for what I typically like. But then you get into the middle rows, I guess it's bottom middle row, and this row right here, right in the middle, and those pastels are great. They're saturated enough for that you're getting a good amount of color, but it's still leaning more pastel-y than anything else. And the shimmers are absolutely fantastic. I did a look with this palette the other day, and I was using Moon Magic, and it's just like the most gorgeous shimmer. I just want to put it all over my face. So great palette, just really kind of gives me wintry vibes. And I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but that's how I feel about this palette. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't in part due to this next palette. And that is from ColourPop. This is the Aurora Struck palette. Another one that is just, it reminds me very much of the Aurora Borealis. That, granted, I've never seen it in real life, but I can imagine it looks something like this. But very similar to the Ensley Rain palette. We've got, you know, more on the pastel-y side, but then we have these darker, grungier, stormier colors that you can mix with them. And I just love the variation of this palette. This palette is actually my top palette from ColourPop. ColourPop comes out with a lot of hits or misses, right? This is a hit. This has been my favorite from them for like over a year now. It's a fantastic palette. The mattes are great. The shimmers are beautiful. It's just, you know, cold night out with like a clear sky kind of vibes, and I really like that. Switching lanes a little bit. Okay, this one, I don't know why, but I've been using it a lot in the winter. And it kind of goes outside what I typically would pull for a winter palette. But this is from Lisa Eldridge. This is the Sorcery palette. Now, when I reviewed it, I decided that it wasn't exactly what I typically like in an eyeshadow palette because the colors are a little more sheer. I like things pigmented. I like a lot of color, but I think it's really this color in the corner that like just changed my mind about the palette. It's still not one that I would typically enjoy as some of my more saturated in color palettes, but I get it. I get it now. I also think especially this bottom row is just really great for winter. This blue is really pretty. This silver is excellent. But it's this color here, which I believe is called Swan Song, that I like to just put all over my lid. I put it over a primer. It stays all day. It's just really cool. It's really pretty. It's a little bit icy, cooler, and I just really like it. So it's just like an easy palette to just bring around with you. Not that I'm bringing it places, but if I needed to, it would be pocket size. Perfect. Changing lanes again. This one may catch you off guard. It's actually another one from Beauty Bay. I know we already have a Beauty Bay in here. We've got another one, and this is the Neutral palette. This is the OG Neutral palette. I actually ended up getting, I think there's a Rich palette and a Neutral too. I got those way before I got this one, which I don't know why, because this is definitely the cooler tone Neutral palette. And it's a little bit boring, right? I know you're looking at it and you're like, I don't get it. Why is that winter? But it's because it's so cool toned. And again, it's really hard to find palettes that don't skewer towards warmer colors. Even the other Beauty Bay palettes I have that are neutrals, they're warm. They're very, very warm neutrals. But this is a cool tone neutral. You've got a couple cool tone purples and pinks in here as well. And you've got just like some beautiful darker grays. We've got this pretty burgundy that you can darken your look with. It's an easy palette to use. It's a great formula and you get so many options. You can kind of do whatever you want. I really like this palette and it just gives me winter vibes. Another one that's more on the neutral side of things, but still leaning towards cooler toned, it's gonna be the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Now, this is one of my favorite palettes from her. It's another palette that is just really easy to use. I like how simple it is. All the colors work well with each other. There was definitely a debate when this first launched. Is it actually a cool tone palette or is it just calling itself a cool tone palette? And it's a little bit of a mix for me. I mean, there's definitely, you know, you have some golds, you have some more like ambery colors. It's not fully cool toned in my opinion, but there is quite a few cool toned options. So I think it's good if you like cool tones. And again, there is some variation if you want a couple warmer colors in there as well, but it's really easy to use. That's why I really like Natasha Denona's formula when she gets it right, because not all her palettes are my favorite, but this is one of my favorite because the formula, it's just, you put it on, it's easy to use, it blends out beautifully. You're paying quite a lot for a palette like this and you want it to work well. So it's really nice when it does and it's easy. So in 2023, I made more of an effort to use my Viseart palettes because they're so tiny, they get neglected a little bit. But I pulled this one out quite a bit and I just think it's perfect for winter. And this is the Paris Etoile. And it looks like this. It's so cute. It's so little and cute and amazing. It's a little bit dirty because I actually pulled this out recently. But again, we're dealing with kind of a cooler toned color story here. This blue is amazing. It's so easy to work with. Now, I don't talk a lot about brands mattes because for me, as long as it works, it's a good matte. But these are excellent. Like their mattes are so creamy and easy to blend out and easy to use. Even the darker colors that can be a little bit scarier to use, right? You mess up with a darker color, it's gonna be more obvious. They're just so easy. You have the black, which I don't really touch to be completely honest, but I like that you have the lighter colors too, so you can kind of buff out the darker colors. And the shimmers are amazing. The shimmers are so good in this little guy. I'm really glad I made more of an effort to use my Viseart palettes because the ones, especially of this size, just have been worth it. Okay, the last two palettes I have, they're actually from the same brand, but I could not choose between them. The first one from Cosmic Brushes is going to be the Winter Wonderland palette. I'm so glad that this one made it into my top winter palettes because one of the palettes that I got from them, I think it's probably a year ago at this point, was a bummer. It just did not work for me. This was the complete opposite experience. It is a beautiful, wintry, shimmery, just fun to play with palette. It definitely is giving you winter vibes. The name of it is Winter Wonderland. I hope it would. But the shimmers themselves are so beautiful on your eyes. The mattes are really easy to use. That was one of the problems I had with one of the previous palettes. Mattes weren't super easy to use. This one, everything is just seamless. It's creamy, it goes on well. It's just a nice variation of colors that I personally really like. I love purples, I love greens. Blue is the color that it's a little harder for me to use. Not with this palette. It's easy for me to kind of intertwine the blues I typically wouldn't reach for with the rest of the colors because they all work so well together. It's just a beautiful palette. Okay, the last palette that I wanted to mention, it may not be the winter palette for you. Okay, this is just purely my preference and what I've been loving lately. That is, again, from Cosmic Brushes, the Gothic palette. Another one where they really hit it out of the ballpark. It's, you're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, I don't understand. I don't understand how that's winter. It is to me because I love purples. I love purples and I love these purples and I love these shimmers. It is such a fun palette to play with. It is beautiful. Again, same as the Winter Wonderland palette. You've got very creamy, easy to work with eyeshadows. And it's a little bit brighter than the typical winter palette that I would look for, but it's just so much fun. Like this purple's gorgeous. You can go a little more cooler tone. You've got the lace color in Nocturnal, but Powerful is such a pretty shimmer. Like it's so pretty. And I just think this is a win. And I just have been enjoying, you know, that extra pop of color during the colder days. This is obviously an extra pop of color. And not so much Serpent and Supreme. I'm staying away from them in the winter, but everything else is just, it's fun to use. It's not a typical winter palette, especially compared to the rest of the palettes I pulled, but it's just what I've been using lately and I've really been enjoying it. It's kind of crazy how gentle I am with my palettes though. It's like, I know I've been using this a lot and it just, clean, looks good, looks good. Well, this was a little bit of a shorter video, but I just wanted to talk about the palettes that I've been reaching for this winter that I've been really enjoying. And I'm curious to hear, what is your ideal winter palette? Does it already exist? If you could make it, what would you include in it? Would it be a lot of blues? Because I don't know, blues are a little bit scary sometimes. But let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can catch me in the next one. Okay, bye guys.